Hello, my name is Yaqeline Castro, and I am a graduate student at the Masters of Science of Transportation Management program at San Jose State University. The title of my capstone is Modesto Commuter Access to the Altamont Corridor Express Passenger Rail Service. In this project, I will take a look at Modesto residents' access to their workplace via the new passenger rail ACE train, as well as access to the station site in downtown Modesto. A little bit of background. The Valley Rail project, managed by the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission, who are also great partners in this project, will be doing an expansion of the ACE service. This expansion will create 16 new stations. One of those stations will be in downtown Modesto. Modesto, California is a medium-sized city that has about 218,000 residents. Due to the proximity to mega regions like the Bay Area and Sacramento, there is a large commuting population that lives in Modesto and works in the Bay Area, Sacramento, and other regions as well. The audience of this project is to the City of Modesto Office of Community and Economic Development. This particular department looks closely at community economic development projects and various inner city traffic and travel transit projects as well. They were also great partners in this project. They work closely with the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission and the Stanislaus Regional Transit Authority to prepare for the integration of the ACE train that will be arriving to Modesto, anticipated in late 2026. There are two guiding evaluation questions that I used to gear this research. The first question, will the planned Altamont Corridor Express passenger rail service expansion meet the needs of Modesto residents who commute out of the city for work? The second question, is the existing pedestrian infrastructure surrounding the Modesto Transit Center safe and accessible for existing transit riders and future Altamont Corridor Express riders? A little bit of background on this. The first question really is just simply answering, there are a lot of Modesto residents who live in Modesto and commute out of the city for work. Will this new ACE service be able to get them to their job sites? The second question is looking more at the station site in downtown Modesto and residents' access and safety arriving to that specific station. In order to do this research, I looked at two different data sources. The first, I utilized Census American Community Survey data, Journey to Work data, and for the second analysis, I did a walkability assessment surrounding the Modesto Transit Center in downtown Modesto. The findings for the first question of whether or not this planned ACE service expansion will support Modesto residents who commute out of the city for work. On the right-hand side, you will see commuting flows for Modesto residents, and this is a list of top 25 cities that Modesto residents commute to for work. You can see Ceres, Turlock, Stockton, Tracy, Manteca, etc. And then next to each city, it is marked whether there is an ACE station available in that city for phase one of the Valley Rail project. Please note that there is also a second phase to the Valley Rail project that would expand this service to other places like Merced. Of the top 25 commuting cities with an ACE station, 68% had an ACE station and 32% did not. So of the top 25 cities that Modesto residents commute for work, 63% of those cities have an ACE station. Some limitations to this data is that it simply says whether or not a city has an ACE station, but it doesn't look at the first and last mile. So if someone's commuting from Modesto to San Jose, it doesn't account for how people will get to the Modesto station and how they get to their final work destination in San Jose, which is an interesting topic, an important topic before the expansion of the ACE service into Modesto. Another thing to note was that data was reviewed on a smaller scale as well at the census tract level, but there was very low commuter flows that were shown at that level. So there needs to be another type of data source to look at the movement of people into the cities that they commute at a smaller scale. The second part of this research was to look at safety and access around the actual station site in downtown Modesto. So as you see here, there was a few pre-selected locations in downtown Modesto to find what sidewalks were going to be analyzed for this project. So things like parking, leisure activities, housing projects. Those were the kind of places that were selected in order to decide what sidewalks were going to be analyzed. Altogether, there was 20 sidewalks that were analyzed. Um, and it was important to find an assessment that was applicable to the city of Modesto. This particular assessment looks at the level of pedestrian stress. So the lowest level of pedestrian stress would be in group 1, highest would be in group 4. Overall, we found that there was a good amount of level of pedestrian stress sidewalks that were around the transit center. However, it is important to note that along 9th Street, which is the main connecting road to the Modesto Transit Center, both of the highest levels of pedestrian stress were found in that specific street. Some of the things that were analyzed in this assessment were the median presence, traffic speed, potholes, sidewalk width, sidewalk buffer width, and traffic counts. Some of the limitations with this particular research was that it didn't incorporate analysis of intersections. And so those are really important also to determine the level of pedestrian stress, which can be analyzed in the future in the downtown area. And there was also no way to account for penalties. So for example, that would be places where the sidewalk just completely ended. It was difficult to analyze that sidewalk as a whole. Also things like there was a truck parked in the middle of a sidewalk, and how do you account for that in the research? So all things to think about if someone continues this work in the future. 3 recommendations that I provide to the city. What first recommendation is to conduct a study to understand where Modesto residents are commuting to and from, and how existing and future transit services can be used for commuters. This will help shape regional transit connections to the ACE service. Second would be to create walkable pathways to the Modesto Transit Center in all directions of the city to make sure that people have safe and stress-free access to the Modesto Transit Center to increase ridership. And third would be to install bike lanes downtown. There was no dedicated bike lanes marked bike lanes around the Modesto Transit Center. And obviously they are great for cyclists, but they also provide a larger buffer between pedestrians and cars, increasing safety and reducing the feeling of stress for pedestrians. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, you can email me at my San Jose State email. Thank you.